Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to Money in the Morning, aka Economic Elevation, aka Financial Consciousness. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I hope everybody's doing well. I see Elisa Muhammad out there, Garvey. Good to see you out there. Andrew Nixon, D. Beck, Dolores Lee, Eric Dykes, Etta Dykes. Let's see. I see Jada Wadley, Sherelle. Good to see you, Sherelle, and Lisa Jackson, Lewis Moore, let's see, Linda Brown, Myron Hobbs, Stephen Gordon. So good to see everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're feeling good. I hope you're feeling awfully black and proud and powerful and capable and everything else. I know I am. I love getting up in the morning and just taking life by the horns, if possible. But this morning I didn't. This morning me and my wife were just shocked. We went to bed and she was like, "What time are you getting up tomorrow?" I said, "I'm getting up at 5." And she said, "Why so early?" I said, "Because I gotta get to the gym. I'm doing more longer runs because I gotta get ready for this half marathon and everything else." I woke up at 8:15. 8:15. How does that happen, man? I was so mad at myself. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. So yeah, so So I must have been tired. I think I was hungover from this wild, crazy weekend. I was hanging out with some wild, crazy black people, a few hundred of you, for the Black AI conference that we had this weekend, and that was really fun, really amazing. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. We had all the AI experts in. We're taking charge of AI. We're just going to come in and somebody call Sam Altman and let him know that black people are just we're going to be running things from here on out. And so they and the Illuminati can put their agenda to the side because the black people are here. Intelligent black people are now running the building. So long story short, we have some great AI experts in there, just some amazing people like Micah Smith, who is one of the leading people in AI. She runs AI Empire Society, by the way. It's AIEmpireSociety.com. We're partnering with her on that. Amanda Spann, who developed a platform that allows you to create apps and things like that, as well as Asada Moore, who's one of the best black educators just anywhere. If you know Asada, you know Asada does not play when it comes to our black children. Asada is front lines, 100% down for the cause, and really good at what she does. So that's just, I mean, there was a super teacher. His name was Winston, and he's this powerful, dynamic educator. I think it's Teacher in a Suit. I think that's his platform, and he runs the implementation of AI in the school district that he's a part of. So we had some really great people in there, and broke some things down in a way that I thought was pretty remarkable, and really sort of exposed all of us to everything that's happening with AI in terms of what you can do with it. You have to learn it. And in fact, we went further than most places can go because again, we're intelligent black people. We're just smarter than everybody else. That's who you are. Just go ahead and own it. Just be proud of that. And so here's what we concluded during the conference. We concluded that it's nice to know AI, right? Knowing AI is cool, right? Like a lot of people are learning AI. They're learning how to use, the apps and the platforms and the models and the video and image and agents and everything else. And then you have the people on the other side who are going to be truly powerful in AI because not because they know it, but because they own it. Do you understand? They own AI, right? And that means that you're talking about the people that are not just the hyperscalers and the billionaires, but the people who've been buying stock in these companies all along. We've had a consistent conversation for the last year and a half, probably 2, 3 years actually. Maybe it was 2, 3 years ago when it first popped out, of how to position yourself ahead of the curve and be an owner in the space. See, this is to me, this is as black and revolutionary as you can get because it's not just about you knowing how to do the freaking job. It's about you knowing how to own the damn organization. Let other people do the work. Let other people do the job. Man, you've been working for 400 years. I know you're tired. I know your feet hurt. Seriously, we've always done the work. And our first thing when we see something new, we're like, okay, boss, what do I learn how to do? I want to do the job. Can I get a job? Can you give me a black job? I want a black job. And nothing wrong with getting a job. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, look, you're here, you know, I'm not gonna I, I'm gonna humbly say this, but This is what I do. Like I'm like a financial surgeon. I know my way around this, and the job is not the way to make the money. That's not where the money's at, man. The money is in the ownership. So what we are using is a new term. We don't just know AI. We don't just own AI. We have known AI. We've known it. Richard Knox knows it. I see he's putting it in the chat. And what does that mean? It means you know it. Sure, you're gonna learn how to use all the tools. We got the AI experts in here. We're taking the lead on this. We're jumping in, running hard, nonstop, moving fast, breaking things, making it happen. So we're gonna know it. Now, if you want to know these things, go to AIEmpireSociety.com, AIEmpireSociety.com. That's where Micah Smith is leading the charge with her team of experts. And in fact, this week they're doing a boot camp on how to make an AI music video. So the same video that Timberland or same way they create digital artists and they're signing these multi-million dollar deals, Micah's going to show everybody how to do that. So AIEmpireSociety.com. The boot camp is 3 days long. It's this week. AIEmpireSociety.com. Somebody put that in the chat, please. So you're going to know it. You're going to know it at the highest levels. But where you're going to go further than most people is you're going to own it. For about 2 years now, I've been pushing to you, sharing with you a list of different companies you can invest in that are going to take the lead in AI. If you know, some of you started investing with Oklo back when we talked about it when it was $9 a share. Oklo's now $168 a share or something like that. I think it went up again today. Let me check my Robinhood to see because I'm really curious about this stock. This stock is really kind of shocking me. I didn't think it would keep going up this much. Oh yeah, it went up again. So it's $161 a share. No, wait. Did it go up or down? It looks like my app is a little bit slow today, I guess. I'll say this, the last 3 months has gone up 141%. And that's literally probably at least a good year and a half after we started talking about it. So even in the last 3 months, even if you came in 3, 4 months ago and said, "Oh, am I late? Did I miss it?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe you did." You let's say you bought anyway. Well, you've made 140% ROI on your money. If you bought at the beginning of this year, then you've made 663% on your money. I'm not kidding. Literally, you could have bought the stock for 20. Now it's at 161. If you had started late this year was late, just so you know. So with that being said, you're owners of AI. A lot of you have made money from this stuff. Give me a yes in the chat if you've been making some of that AI money from investing in the energy sources, investing in the data centers, investing in the chip manufacturers, investing in the hyperscalers, investing in the entire ecosystem. A lot of you have made money from this. Put a yes in the chat if you have. So you own it. You're an owner. I know it's hard to imagine Black people actually being in charge of our destiny. I know that some of us are like, oh my God, no, that's not possible. I'm Black. Where's my master? Like a puppy, like, where's my master? I need somebody to own me. Like, no, ain't nobody supposed to own you. That was wrong. They shouldn't have did that to you in the first place. No, you're the captain of your fate. That's what you are. At least that's what I want you to be if you're up in here, man. I need you to start understanding ways you can actually have a role in shaping your outcome. And this is hard. This is really hard because I get so much pushback from people who think I'm being an uppity Negro by saying that we can take charge of these things. They think that I'm out of touch and I don't understand what it's like to be. No, I overstand what it's like to be a slave because I was one. And I'm the Harriet Tubman. I'm coming up in there with the shotgun, like, okay, either you're going to come along or we're going to leave you. But if you try to disrupt, I might have to cock and aim and take you out. I don't want to do that. I don't want to, who wants to do that? But literally, you get the Negro naysayers who are in your ear, who are telling you that none of this is possible. There's something wrong with you for thinking that you can actually create a good life for yourself, who actually think that it's illogical and impossible for Black people to have a wealth strategy. Those are people that you have to sort of push aside, put them out of your consciousness because they're going to disrupt what you're trying to do. They're going to poison the well, so to speak. Now if they come along and they say, "Hey, I'd like to learn, I'd like to get better," then you welcome them with open arms. You teach them everything you know. Again, I mentioned to you guys, I don't really teach any students. I have zero students. I have no students. I don't teach students. I only teach teachers. and that includes your 4-year-old. If your 4-year-old is learning this stuff in here, some of y'all got the children in here, which is exactly what you should be doing. If your 4-year-old is learning about wealth, I want them teaching the other kids at the daycare. Do you understand? I want them taking the freaking lead. I want to create the next Harriet Tubman, the next Martin Luther King, right? The next all these things that we want, the next Malcolm X. That's what we're building here. All right. So when people say, "Do you know AI?" You shouldn't say, "I know AI." You should say, "I've known AI," because I know it and I own it, right? You own the companies and you know the technologies. That makes sense. Put the word known in the chat. Put the word known in decay. And I want to emphasize this point. This is going to be our word known. I've known AI. All right, good, good, good. That means you know it and you're making money from it. And remember, to make money from AI, it doesn't mean learning a skill and then getting someone to hire you to do that skill. That's part of it for sure. There's money in that for sure. But sometimes you just own the damn company and not have a damn clue what the company's doing. Do you know how many companies I own where literally, if you're like, Boyce, you made $80,000 from that company. What do they do? I might be like, I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure. I just have so many white people that work for me. I just don't know which ones are doing what. Well, where's their headquarters located? Oh no. I on my app, they're on Robinhood. What? Boyce, you've owned the firm for years, and you made $50,000 from a firm this year. Tell us about who's the CEO of a firm. Oh no, how am I supposed to keep up with all the people that work for me? I can't. I got too many people. I don't know, man. So really, you ain't got to know all that stuff. Take the pressure off. Take the pressure off. I believe in this kind of like deductive learning style where sometimes we make stuff super complicated and sometimes it has to be. I'm not saying the complication in itself can't be valuable, right? Just like labor, it can be valuable for sure. But just because something's complicated doesn't make it better, and just because you work hard at it doesn't mean it's more effective. I remember I heard that statement for the first time from a guy who was on the faculty at Northwestern University. I don't remember his name, but he was giving a speech to us. We were all PhD students, and he was some dude. He looked really young. He was probably in his 30s. He looked like he was in his 20s, but he was kicking ass. He was really good. He had tenure at Northwestern, which is really hard to do. And I remember him saying something that really just hit me. He said, just because you worked hard at something doesn't mean that it's more effective. Or just because you worked hard at it doesn't mean it's good. Just because you spent 80 hours doing something doesn't mean that that was the best approach. And that led me to really value simplicity. And so what I would say is to you, keep things simple for yourself. Right? Don't feel that that everything has to be just crazy complex and hard. The real genius is not being able to navigate through the weeds of complex, extremely complex ideas. The real genius that's going to emerge in you is when you can say, if I do this one thing, that's going to change everything. Right? It's not 50 things, it's one thing, right? So we had a gathering, let's say we had a gathering of let's say that one day, which it's going to be a long time in the future. Let's say one day they had a gathering of black people who know how to think, who can help figure out how to deal with inequality, racism, and oppression. And let's say they were crazy enough to invite me to the table. People like me don't come. We're not invited. Dr. Claude Anderson, they never invited him to the table because people that bring real solutions need to stay away. What they want are people that are going to do a whole lot of hooting and hollering and talking and not actually accomplish anything, right? So, but let's say if we were sitting at that table, I would probably be one of the quietest people at the table because I would come back and I would say, well, if you think about how Black people feel, if you think about just what Black people are going through, whatever that is, um, the biggest issue that I've seen is not, that Black people wake up every day thinking that they're going to run into a police officer that's going to kill them. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen. I'm just saying most of you, in fact, if I was to ask you, give me a yes if you haven't seen a cop in the last 24 hours, if you haven't talked to a police officer in the last 24 hours, give me a yes. Or let's say the last 3 days. Last 3 days. Give me a yes in the chat if you have not had one conversation with a police officer in 3 days. All the yes. I'm looking for a no. I'm looking for somebody. Maybe you're married to a cop. You got a cop in your house. Cops knocked on your door. Did ICE come to try to take you away? I don't know. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. I really want to know. Okay. All right. So there you go. All right. So now I want you to give me for those of you that have jobs right now, and there's nothing wrong with having a job. I respect that 100%. Right. Some of you are already like not even going to work every day. You can't answer this one. I want the people that go to work. Give me a yes if you've had a conversation with your boss in the last 3 days. Give me a yes, and also give me a double yes if your employer gets on your nerves, if you don't like your job that much, if you would quit your job tomorrow if you could. So you can put yes if you have, and double yes if you're like, yeah, I talk to them. When these people call me, I get stressed out. My cortisol levels go up. I start to have night sweats. I feel my blood pressure is higher because I just don't want to. I want to avoid these people as much as possible, or at the very least, I want to leave this job. I just want to get out of here. And as soon as I can, as soon as I can get my options money right, whatever, right? Okay. So I would probably be the guy who says, well, if you want to improve the lives of black people, then put them in a position where they don't have to work for white people. That's it. Like if you do that, and then someone might say, well, that's not possible. That that you have to work for white people. And I would say, no, actually, if you invest small amounts of money for your child when they're born, we've talked about this, like $200 a month, something like that. That less money than people spend on their car notes, right? So you can't say we can't afford it because most of us have cars. And I assume most of us love our children more than we love our car, but we don't act like it, right? Because your money expresses what your values are, right? Don't tell me what your values are. Show me your budget, and then I'll tell you what your values are. Because actions speak louder than words. So if you were to invest that same amount of money that you spend on your car note and put that toward a fund, a protection fund, a financial safety fund for your child, then by the time they're 25, they'd have plenty of money and they'd never have to work for anybody. So then they'd have time to go and do all the things they want to do in life. They'd have the ability to find happiness as opposed to having to find a job. They would then be free to, kind of live and explore and express and everything else. And I'm not saying that it would solve all their problems. Money does not solve all your problems. Money does not give you happiness, but money is a nice down payment on happiness. Financial freedom is a big pathway to at least having the ability to free up your time so you can go find happiness. That was the conversation I had with our youngest, where she said, what do you think I should be when I grow up?" And I said, "I think you should be a good person." Like I think you should be happy. I think you should be, like just that's it. Like be a good person and be happy. That's what I want you to be. I don't, you know, like professions and all that. I don't think you have to even process it that way. And I said, so really, I told her, I said, most people, again, because I told you I like things to be simple. I said, most people in life, if they want to find a big chunk of their happiness, they have to solve what I call the $5,000 problem. I don't know if you've heard me talk about the $5,000 problem, but the $5,000 problem is, can you find a way to make $5,000 a month without having to go to work every day? If you can do that, whether it's through investing or starting a side hustle, or maybe your parents invested for you, then you've solved the big chunk of the black problem in America. Because the problem for black people, in my opinion, is not to get white people to change their behavior. Right? I don't know how effective we can be at doing that. I just give you a little clue. Don't ever try to change people. It ain't gonna work. Has it ever engaged in like the really depressing task of trying to change people? It's terrible. It's terrible. It's horrible. Like if you date somebody, sometimes people would date somebody based on their potential and what they could be if they were motivated and all this other stuff. And they don't understand that, like, if they're not motivated already internally, you're never going to be the one to be able to do that. You're just not going to be able to make somebody someone other than who they already are. That's just what I have found. It's really hard to change people. I can push you in the same direction that you're already going, show unconditional love for you, and which would then open the door for me to have some influence on what your next move might be. But for most people, you can't change them. It'll stress you out. It'll drive you crazy. And so here's my point, right? If we know how many of y'all agree with me? How many of y'all have ever gone through it? Has you ever gone through that where you got like a cousin and you be trying to talk to him and have a million conversations? He still don't listen. He still want to run in the streets and be thugging out all day. Or you got a sibling that it could be a genius and you've tried to talk to him like you got to go to college and do this and work hard and they just don't get it. Or even a spouse. That's really bad, right? When you're trying to really trying to change your spouse or your significant other. It's the most stressful thing in the world. And when I'm in my right mind, I don't try to do it. And so my question would be this: look, if we all know, if we all agree that it's really hard to change people and almost impossible to change people on an individual level, what makes you think that you can change the behavior of 100 million white people? I seriously, what makes you think that you can change? I mean, you can't even change your cousin. What makes you think you can change the behavior of every white person in America. And get all white people to suddenly decide that they're going to treat black people differently, they're going to behave differently, they're going to change all their policies, they're going to give you reparations, they're going to do the right thing. God bless you if you're doing that. I mean, there's a whole industry of that. Before they killed DEI and everything, there was a whole industry of all these speakers that would go to big white universities and they would just be talking mostly to white people. They weren't talking to the black people because the black people would be like, yeah, I agree with you. This sucks. These people are mean. And they'd be talking to the white people like, this is why you shouldn't be racist. We're going to do anti-racism training and anti-bias training. And I'm not if you do that for a living, I respect you. I love you. In fact, I admire you more than I admire myself. I do. I admire you more than I admire myself because you are doing a job that I ain't never interested in doing. I have never wanted to ever be that black guy who comes in and talks to a room full of white people to explain to them how they can be nicer to black people and why they should change their behavior because I don't believe that it works. I don't. And sometimes people will try to put me in that role. When I was on the faculty of Syracuse, I'll get invited into places to talk about diversity and everything else. And I just wasn't the guy, man. I would tell the DEI director, whatever those jobs are called, at the universities, I would be like, look, don't invite, if you invite me in, I'm gonna get you fired. Just make sure you understand, I'm gonna get you fired because I have this addiction to the truth. And I have very little patience for people that are committed to treating us poorly. I don't have any interest in accommodating ignorance. I cannot accommodate the behavior that I see. I know too much. I know too much. I've read the Dr. Claude Anderson books. I've read Black Labor, White Wealth. I've heard the Malcolm X speeches. I've sat with Farrakhan. Like I don't have the ability to sit to have patience for this because to me it's an activity that's not going to yield the benefits we're looking for. And really, you're surrendering to power. You're acknowledging their power and the ability to shape your life. I say, rather than trying to get them to change their behavior and expand the opportunity or the plethora of things they allow us to do, I say we take what we've got. I say that we consider the fact that we do live in a country where there are plenty of freedoms, not as many as there should be, for sure, but there's enough freedom out there where if you really, really, really want to make something happen and you're black, come on now. You know you could start that business. You know that you can pick up that book and read it. I ain't never to this day met a white man who came up to me and said, "Boy, I saw you reading a book." Shut the book out of my hand. I ain't never had that happen. I've never had a white person who says, no, you can't be a good husband and take care of your kids because that's illegal here because Negroes are not allowed to have happy families. I've never run into a white man who told me I couldn't go run a few miles to get my health together, right? That there's a law. If you're black, you must die from diabetes, heart disease, and overdoses of fried chicken. That is the law, boy. Right? I've never run into that, right? So again, I'm not here to say that it would be not a wonderful world if I could get every white person in America to hear my point of view, but I just haven't seen that become successful. But what I have seen become successful is when black people embrace their point of view. What I have seen actually work is when you have families and individuals that say, okay, life ain't fair, but we're going to put together a family investment plan. We're going to meet as a family once a month and talk about our financial plan. All right. So when we get a little extra money might be tight, but we get a little extra money before we spend money on the Beyonce concert, we're going to make sure that we put some money into the family fund, right? Or also before I pay for Lil Pookie to go to football camp, I'm gonna make sure Lil Pookie also has a portfolio and that we talk about stocks so that Lil Pookie knows how to own some assets, right? So that in case he can't be the next, the next LeBron James, he can learn how to become the next Jerry Jones or something, right? Who knows, right? So Jerry Jones owns the Dallas Cowboys, right? So maybe there is a pathway where we say, okay, what just take what we got and just make a plan with that mold that, and turn that into something special, something that we can use in order to win. And that's pretty much what I aim for, right? I really want to encourage you to never undervalue the significance of the little wins in your life. Like, don't undervalue that. The little wins become the big ones. The little win, like I bought stock for the first time. I'm the only person in my family who's ever done it. That seems little. It doesn't seem like a big deal. You might have bought $8 worth of stock, but that's huge. That's the beginning of something huge. That's a momentum shift. That is a directional trajectory such that you continue in that direction, amazing things will eventually happen. Warren Buffett bought his first stock when he was 12, and it probably cost $8 to do that. Now Warren Buffett has more money than Jesus, it seems like. This man is sitting on 160 billion with a B, in cash. And he's just sitting on it, just deciding what he wants to do with it. So my point is to say that the little wins go a long way. I would encourage you to really embrace that, and not get so caught up in the bigger picture. Like, okay, we're all gonna get together and have the revolution and take down the government and change the pot. That's, I just get tired even saying that. Like, that literally, that stuff exhausts me. I like things that actually work, and I'd rather move forward a little bit and know that I'm moving forward than to sit there and sit still waiting for the big payoff, the big payday. Okay? So keep making the little moves. The little moves are everything. I encourage you to remember that. Now, before we move on, what I want to do actually is I want to talk about dividends today. That was actually my plan. This is I had a conversation this morning, true story, with my biological sister. When I say my biological sister, whenever somebody says I talk to my biological sister or my biological mom, you know that there's a story behind that, right? When I heard Sha'Carri Richardson say, that I was smoking weed because of the death of my biological mother, I said, oh, so that means she wasn't your real mother. Because nobody calls their mother their biological mother, right? Unless she's their biological mother. So if you want to know my version of ghetto, I have a biological father, I have a biological sister, and I have a biological brother. So I talked to my biological sister today, and she was explaining to me her challenges with ADHD and how that has affected the way she processes people and things. And I said, oh my God, this is crazy. We must be related because I have the same challenge. I said, I go into class and I'll plan on talking about one thing and I'll go in a whole different direction. And so now I know what's going on here. So that really happens. So that's what happens in class. But I hope that part of the conversation was still helpful for you, because even if I shift directions, I do it because I feel like, okay, you know what? Maybe God's telling us it's time for us to go in this direction instead of that one, right? I don't operate on Boyce's plan. I operate on God's plan. And sometimes God says, go left. You want to go right, but you need to go left because that's where the information is. That's where the benefit is. Okay. All right. So one thing I want to mention quickly, really fast. One, tonight we're doing stock options. So if you want to join and participate with that, it's a lot of fun. We go and we hunt for money, and we put together strategies that can make you money tomorrow. So if you want to join, we're going to meet tonight at 8:30. You can go to drboyceprime.com, drboyceprime.com. You can do it as a family. You'll love it. Also, text the word options to the number 87948 to get notifications and updates for when we meet. So you text options to 87948. All right. Also, one more thing too. Tomorrow, the Stock Market Club meets at noon. So that's where you can ask me questions. We talk about the markets, and I let you know what stocks I'm seeing that I really like. And so if you want to join the Stock Market Club, you can go to drboycestockmarket.com. That's drboycestockmarket.com. But just so you know, Prime members get into the Stock Market Club for free. So if you're a Prime member or you join Prime, that's all you got to do. So drboyceprime.com is where you can go if you want to do both. All right, so let's talk about dividends here, and just I want to give you some ideas and ways to kind of look at dividends. on style. I don't know why dividends were on my mind. I think because I was just listening to some podcasts and they were talking about dividends. So I said, it would be fun to kind of go through that really quickly. And so here's what I want to go over really quickly. All right. So a lot of you ask about companies that pay dividends and just what dividends mean. Well, first of all, if you want to know what a dividend means, it goes back to this. Remember, we were talking about the fact that when you own stock, you are the owner of the company. Well, that means you're the boss. The manager of the company, the CEO, people like that, they're not more important than the shareholders. They work for the shareholders. Now, they might also be a shareholder. They call that incentive alignment. So they'll give the CEO and the vice president shares of the company, or maybe employees will buy into the company, which is, by the way, that's something I highly recommend for those who feel left out. In this massive amount of wealth being accumulated by people in the higher ups and stuff like that is the stock market's wide open. It's democratized. Anybody can buy stock. So it's whatever company you work for. If you like the company, you like the product, maybe buy a few shares in the stock. Don't overinvest in it though, because if you overinvest in your own company, then what can happen is you become under diversified. So if that company goes bankrupt, you lose everything. That's what happened to the people with Enron. Enron was the most notorious example of that, and that's a huge mistake I see people make in investing. You should always have your money spread out if you want to be safe. Now, if you want to take risk, then you can put it all into one thing. Does happen sometimes. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, he's a gambler. He even says it. He says, "I'm a gambler." And so, in fact, I think the documentary America's Team, the subtitle was "A Gambler and His Cowboys." So he gambled. He gambled on an oil well. He put everything he had into an oil well. It worked out. Then he put everything from the oil well into the Dallas Cowboys. That worked out. So sometimes it works out, right? So if you are a person that's okay with running for the rails, like just laying it all on the line, then that is an approach that is certainly one that people have taken. The problem with that approach, though, is that you're going to be affected by what is called selection bias. Selection bias is you see Jerry Jones because he's got billions of dollars and it's easy to be inspired by that. What you don't see are the thousands of other people who tried the same thing and failed, who lost it all, right? And that's the hard part, right? It's hard to tell you about that, but that's kind of living in the shadows. It's like the shadow side of heavy risk taking is they never really tell you the stories about all the people that failed. They'll tell you about LeBron, but they won't tell you about the 10,000 black boys who dedicated everything to basketball and now they're hanging out at the liquor store or working at Walmart, right? So just keep that in mind as you make your investment strategy because that does play a big role in outcomes. Now to go back to the dividend issue. Companies pay dividends basically because they're giving you your money back. That's really what it is. And a lot of shareholders will force companies to pay dividends because are they basically are holding too much of the company's cash. So whenever the company's management has a lot of free cash available, the shareholders will sometimes force them to pay a dividend because there's something that they call the free cash flow problem, which says that when companies are making too much money and they're not forced to do something with the money, they start to waste the money, right? And this is really something that affects a lot of people, a lot of us. So at the corporate level, when companies have too much cash floating around, you'll notice the researchers notice this that they'll start, buying corporate jets, or they'll have fancy parties, or they'll just find stuff to do with the money. Universities do this too. That's why college tuition's gone up so much, is because universities started to benefit from the fact that they could increase tuition without any consequences because student loans were available. So all you got to do to get whatever amount of money you want is to get some 18-year-old willing to finance it just so they can go to college, so they can drink beer and party and stuff like that. And so ultimately, when you look at universities and they've studied what are universities doing with this money, what they found was that universities were just wasting it. There are graphs that'll show like the number of administrators as a percentage of the faculty at most major universities, and that number just shot way up. They were just hiring all these people that they didn't even need because they had so much extra money and they were nonprofits, so they had to spend it all. Or maybe you'll notice like a lot of universities will gentrify surrounding neighborhoods. They'll buy up all the property and they'll just buy it all up and because they've got all this extra money. So free cash flow in your pocket can cause excessive spending. And a lot of you have probably noticed that. Like if you have money just sitting around and you look in your checking account, you got a lot of extra cash, it's easy to be tempted to just to spend that money. So what I would encourage you to do is hold yourself accountable. If you get extra money sitting around, force that money by just auto deposit or something to go into your investment account. Just have it pulled out and put somewhere where it's going to do something productive before you get a hold of it and start wasting it. If that's your issue, and because if that's your issue, that's my issue too. When I feel rich, I tend to spend. That's it. They call that a wealth effect. When I feel rich, I tend to spend. Anybody else go through that? Let me know if you ever go through that. When you just feel like you're just financially comfortable and somebody's like, "Would you like to buy that $12 cheeseburger?" You're like, "Yeah, why not? I'm rich right now, right?" But if your money's tight or you look at your account and you don't see a balance that you're comfortable with, you're more likely to say, no, let me save some money. Well, that's a wealth effect. And the wealth effect is that when you feel rich, you just spend. So if you have that problem, then maybe one way to manage that is to do a mind trick on yourself. Make yourself feel poor. Pull that money out. My wife is really good with this. My wife will always, she tells me all this. It's so funny. If you talk to my wife, you would never guess that she was married to me and that we have actual wealth because she always talks about how poor she is and how little she makes and how expensive everything is. And it's a mindset. I'm like, baby, you got money. You can buy stuff. We don't have to, we don't have to go to Goodwill, like you can actually go to a store. But it started when she was young, when she didn't have a lot of money growing up. And what also happened is when she got started getting paid from her job, she started having the maximum amount of money taken out for like her retirement account and her investments. So by the time you get to the actual check, the amount of money she thinks she actually has, it becomes very, very small. And this is a good long-term planning strategy. You'd be amazed how many people become multi did that and they started doing that in their 20s, in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. By the time they're 50, they're sitting on at least 500,000, sometimes as much as $1 million. Some of you are in this room right now. I've met some of you. I've talked to you, and I'm always so excited. I'm like, oh, look at this. They figured it out. They got it. Right. So the other thing about dividends too that you may want to know is that there are different sort of theories on dividends and sort of how they operate. And one is that there's what they call a signaling theory. Companies signal their economic health to investors by what they do with their dividend. Companies that cut their dividend are typically not good investments because when they cut their dividend, that's almost like somebody who's not doing well. Okay, Deborah says I'm going in and out. Are y'all able to hear me okay? What do you think? Am I going in and out? Sometimes the Wi-Fi will give me some challenges. I'm going in and out. Oh man, I hate this. Let me see. Let me try something here. Let me see if I can fix. Okay, you know what? And I have no options here because I don't want to switch to Wi-Fi. Okay, you know what? I think what I'm gonna do is I might have to cut this short. I'm so sorry, everybody. Okay, it's fine on your end. I'm going in. Okay, somebody says I'm going out. Okay, sorry. I hate this. It really bothers me. So let me try something here. Let me see what else. Maybe if I turn my cell phone off, maybe it's taking some of the Wi-Fi. Okay, all right. I'm gonna keep talking. So I'll just ask you periodically if you can understand me or not, and I'll repeat myself in certain areas so you can get it all. So with dividends, a company that cuts their dividend, typically their stock price keeps going down, and the reason for that is because the cutting of the dividend is typically a signal or a symptom of other problems with the company, right? So if you have a company and you hear that you invested and you hear they're cutting their dividend, you want to be really careful about that because not only will the stock price drop typically, but it may continue to trickle downward even after the original drop. So dividends. Now, here's the other thing too. If you have companies that have rising dividends, that's a good signal. That usually means the company is feeling good and feeling confident. And their finances are strong and they're willing to make this financial commitment. They're willing to take on the burden of keeping a high dividend level because they feel their finances are strong enough, right? So dividends are big. Now, in terms of which types of companies pay dividends. Usually these are companies that are generating a lot of cash. New companies that generating cash and they don't have a lot of places to put it, right? So companies that are younger, they don't tend to pay a lot of dividends because what they want to do is they want to plow their money back into the company. They want to continue to make investments. Like OpenAI is not a company that's really gonna pay a dividend for a long time because they see themselves as a growing organization. And because they're growing, they just sort of are like, no, we need all of our money so we can keep investing in growth. Which, by the way, I don't know how stable of an investment OpenAI is. I kind of wonder. It's not a publicly traded company, but if it becomes publicly traded, I think a lot of people will clamor to buy the stock. I'm not sure if OpenAI is really going to be winning long term in the AI space. I think they're great. They're first movers. They're doing a lot of powerful stuff, but there are other companies that are just better at it. They're better capitalized, and there's a lot of scrutiny that people are having right now over the types of deals OpenAI is making. They're almost like these financially incestuous deals that where like they'll go. I think with AMD, they went and they took a they what was it? They bought chips from AMD, but AMD kind of gave them the money back with these warrants, right? These with basically these long-term stock options. And then we worked with Nvidia, and Nvidia basically they made an investment in OpenAI, and OpenAI used the money to buy Nvidia chips. So they literally took the money that they received and immediately spent it back with Nvidia. So Nvidia said, "We'll invest in you, but you got to take all the money that we're giving you and use it to buy our stuff," right? Which has caused some alarm for people that are kind of watching what's happening. And then when Oracle is taking on debt to commit to some of these massive investments they say that they're going to end up making, that's that's making people wonder. It's like, okay, so you're saying you ain't really got the money. So remember I mentioned to you all that I felt that Oracle was overvalued. I felt that Oracle, when Oracle did their deal and their stock price went up, Larry Ellison made $100 billion in one day or something crazy like that. I remember I bought put options. I said, I don't think this is gonna last. This don't feel right. I just don't see Oracle leading the charge on AI like this. And some of the numbers are astronomical. They'll say, we're gonna build $500 billion worth of data centers. And the problem is, it's like, okay, if you look at OpenAI and the company makes $13 billion a year, how are you gonna build $500 billion worth of anything? Like, what are you talking about? So a lot of times these inflated numbers come from projections, and projections are always grandiose and loud and everything else. But here's one thing also, just a little side note, since everybody in here has known AI, you know it and you own it. Because I gave you the list of AI stocks, I can give you the list again if you, or actually text the word AI to the phone number 87948. That's our AI track. So if you have an interest in AI, pull out your phone now and just text the letters AI to the phone number 87948, and we'll just send you stuff that's related to AI that's actually happening, not just investments, but opportunities to dig deeper and learn things and stuff like that. So text AI to 87948. But one thing that you may or may not know, I don't know how many of you subscribe to ChatGPT, but did anybody know that Meta literally has AI that's just as good as ChatGPT that's actually free? At least it's free right now. And the thing is, you never know if they're going to keep it free, but I wouldn't be surprised if they kept it free because they're already monetized in that area. They don't need to monetize AI by getting subscribers the way ChatGPT does. Meta's already got a whole system of advertising revenue, Google as well, that where AI is just going to be sort of an add-on to what they're doing. They're just going to make it better. And Google Gemini, that's another one. Thank you, Dr. Mingum. Yeah, Gemini, is it Gemini.google.com? Yeah, Google Gemini is really good. Now, everything with Gemini isn't free though. If you get the best, most premium level, it does cost money. But yeah, but it's pretty good. The free version is pretty good. Notebook LM, stuff like that. So yeah, so if you want to do the Meta AI and try it out, the URL is meta.ai, meta.ai. And I tried it out. I really liked it. They can do the images and the videos and answer your questions and whatever, right? And it's pretty cool. So I wonder how long ChatGPT will be able to keep those monthly subscribers paying when they know they really don't have to pay. They have 800 million people, active users each month. That's what they always talk about. But I always wonder, like, okay, how many of those 800 million are actually paying you real money? And what is that next move that's going to get you monetized? I do know that their API gets used a lot because what happens is you have these other platforms where they'll just aggregate different AI tools and use them all at once. And they'll just grab the best LLM model, the best image model, the best video model, and then kind of do what you want them to do. And so the industry is really expanding in really interesting ways. And so I would really say that if you're really looking to invest deeper in I would definitely do it um, in a way that doesn't overcommit you to one or two companies. I would never do that because you don't know how this is going to play out. New companies are going to emerge. That's the first thing. And also, some of the companies that are dominant today will not be dominant tomorrow. That's just a fact. And so here, I'm going to put in the chat this list of I made a second list of AI stocks that I kind of like. And so I'm going to put this in here if you want to take a look at that. And feel free to, it's not invested advice, of course, you guys know this, but this is just a little list to kind of help you get started if you're confused and not sure what to do next. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up for today. It was a pleasure getting a chance to talk to y'all. And sorry about the audio issue. I turned off my Wi-Fi on my phone, hoping that would help. And also, don't forget tonight at 8:30, we're going to be meeting for stock options. So you can go to drboyceprime.com. And also with your Prime membership, you can join us tomorrow for the Stock Market Investors Club. And then on top of that, this week, Micah Smith, our resident AI expert, is going to hold a 3-day boot camp on how to make an AI music video. So it's really powerful for a lot of other things beyond that, where not only will you get to be able to do whatever the Timberlands and people like that are doing to sign these deals, but also you understand what it means to manage your image and your video and your music and put it all together, the lip syncing and the imagery and the prompt design and everything else. So she's going to cover a lot of that stuff. So if you want to be a part of that, just go to AIEmpireSociety.com. That's AIEmpireSociety.com. And also, if you want to be on the text list for this class, text the word morning to that number 87948, and I'll invite you tomorrow. All right, guys. So have a wonderful day. God bless you.